Hi, everybody. I'm Audrey Moore with Audrey Helps Actors, and this is episode number 26. Giving your career some karate licks, getting your financial fix of those checks in the mail that you're going to cash. No, you're going to save them. You're going to save those checks. I just wanted to do a shout out real quick to the reviews that came in. You guys are crushing it with these iTunes reviews, and I'm just so happy about it. And just know, if you're not going to write a review for me, write a review for Jessie. You guys should see how excited and happy Jessie gets when new reviews are posted, because you guys, I provide the charm, but Jessie really provides the substance, and you just should know he's putting in a lot of time, editing, sound mixing, making sure that this works good. And so when you guys are like, this podcast is awesome, he's like, yay. It's like a little butterfly of warmth in his heart. So leave a review for Jessie. Special shout out to Cindy Slick, Brian Botella, ST2810143, Ranger Gnome, Tams 1204, Deja Henry, Audrey is my spirit animal, what? And Just Browsing 123. You guys, love it. So this week on Audrey Helps Actors, we have Moritz von Stuelpnagel. Moritz VS, as you will learn we call him. He is a dear friend of mine, and he is a Tony Award nominated theater director in New York City. And I'm just so happy for him and so proud of him. He's really built such a wonderful career for himself, and we really talk about the journey of finding actors and what he feels like his job is in hiring actors and relating to actors, and his points of view on the audition process. So if you are a person who enjoys theater, or even if you just want to hear what a Tony Award nominated director feels about you, give it a listen. I think it's a really great episode, and I just think he's lovely. So this is part of the New York series when I was in New York. Next week, I'm hoping to have on some more New York people. If you guys know Samantha Soul, just give her a little text and be like, Sammy, I'm so glad you're going to record this podcast with Audrey. She's so excited to have you on. Just text Sammy Soul. You want her on. See what happens. All right, you guys. I hope you're on your way to an audition.
Audrey helps actors because they don't know anything.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the LA scene. So, yeah.
Obviously, you don't know anything about that. And
So
I don't know anything more about the New York scene, so the two of us combined. Okay, are you ready?
We can teach each other.
We'll teach each other here.
We're all going to learn.
I'm so excited. Hi, honey. Are you nervous?
Am I nervous? No, not when I'm with you. This is going to be fun.
It'll be
really
fun,
nice.
right?
Yes.
Okay, hi, everybody. I'm Audrey Moore with Audrey Helps Actors, and today we have...
Moritz von Stuelpnagel.
Oh, my God. Say your name one more time.
Moritz von Stuelpnagel. I can't do it 3 times fast because even though I've had a lifetime of practice, I think some kind of demonic monster is going to come out of the mirror and just,
and
slash
kill everyone.
So I try to keep a quota on that.
Do you want to spell your name so that people...
Do I?
Yes,
I don't
think
know
you
if
should.
I can.
Spell it.
What you want me to spell it?
Yeah,
because
people will Google you.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, okay.
It's Moritz is my first name, like St. Moritz, the ski resort that I've never been to, but would love to go if anybody out there wants to take me.
Means.
It's a ski resort in Switzerland.
But
maybe one of your podcast listeners is going to be so enamored
that
that's not going to happen.
No.
Then why am I doing this? So my last name is von Stuelpnagel, VonStuelpnagel.
I want you to know, I've known you for so long, and I have still no idea how to spell your name.
No. Why would you?
I have it Moritz VS forever. That's all it's ever been.
Yes, that's right.
That's what it should be, right?
That's what it should be.
Moritz VSOP is what you should be.
I just really like to irritate people.
Moritz very special.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Very special. That's good.
Moritz very special, right?
Right. Yes, that's right.
Good. We also call you Mo Diggy, Mo Dog. What
Who
else
does?
do you get?
You do?
I've always called you.
Well, stop it.
Please quit immediately.
Please. I don't prefer that.
So you are a director
I am.
here in New York City.
That's right.
A theater director.
Correct.
Tony Award nominated director for, do you want to tell them what you were
It's a
nominated
play called
for?
Hand to God,
Yeah.
which was a show that we started off Broadway and then took to off Broadway and then took to Broadway.
You really worked it from like the ground up.
Yeah, it ran almost a year on Broadway and
all of those actors
has
have
dozens
series
and
now,
dozens
right?
of productions around the country.
Yeah.
All those actors are doing really, really wonderfully on TV, film, other theater projects. So we're just all over the moon about what that show was, and and also just to take a show that we loved and felt like this is something we would want to see and get it to a larger audience feels really rewarding.
You guys are kind of like renegades, right? Like that's how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone sort of like gets to this point where they're like, how do I crack what the industry wants? How do I be who they want? Or how do I make the kind of work that they will find exciting? And what was great about that show is, my friend Rob wrote this crazy puppet play that's actually about grieving for his dead father. And we just wanted to honor that story and make it the kind of thing that we would want to go to, not thinking about is there a larger market for this, but just this would be awesome to see on stage. And then other people, at a point agreed. And so we were like, oh, cool. That's an amazing sort of synthesis, I guess.
Yeah. Thing to sort of circle into.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, and the passion shows, and when the passion shows, then hopefully, because it's a long process. People don't realize that.
It's a long process.
I mean, how many years was that?
Rob wrote it in 2010, I think.
Yes.
And we did our first production of it in 2011.
Right.
Then it was on Broadway in 2015.
I mean, that's very normal.
Yeah.
And that's actually maybe a little even short.
Yeah, actually,
I think usually like 8 years,
quick.
right?
It's 5 to 8 years, I think. Is
it's pretty standard.
Often what people say. I mean, it takes forever to get up a show on Broadway. So
forever.
And it can be, dismantled at any point along the way or shelved at any point along the way. So
I mean, that's sort of the thing that I feel like I want people, those of you listening who are actors and also interested in directing or writing, and even if that's in the film and television world, it's what's so something that nobody can really explain to you is this concept that at any moment it can all fall apart, always.
And it can also springboard the other direction, right?
100%.
Like, it's like I feel like what they told us in school was like, just keep at it, just keep sort of like plowing forward, and eventually, and it's not actually, like, no one actually rewards you for your plowing forward.
That's right.
It actually moves in fits and starts, where it can feel really in stasis for a long time, and then suddenly you get this opportunity where you get a chance to show the specific things that you do well, and then suddenly you can sort of springboard ahead or whatever.
Yes.
But that, ostensibly hopes that like in the interim you've been working on those specific things that are specific to you, so that when you have that opportunity, boom, you are different. You are unique in the way, whatever it is that you do or whatever. You know what I mean?
I totally do. I mean, we talk on here all the time, and people know me for, and I know that this is also true for you, about the continual creative problem solving of your career, and that there's like creative process to that, similar to the creative process of the actual work that you've been studying and working on your whole life. And that you constantly are coming up against like, how do I get there? How do I do that thing? And how do I get anybody to give a fuck about me over there? Right.
Yeah.
And then you start to see what you maybe bring to the table and what your value is, and just what you're saying of like what you sort of, where your talents lie and where you shine. Right. And then you find a way to then hone those and market those and find other like-minded people who are in the same, I guess, zone as that.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And then,
when I first got to New York, I felt like, the first thing I did, because I was incredibly precocious and ambitious, was to, I think I put like a list of all the off-Broadway theaters on my wall, a kind of like weird dream board or whatever. A vision board or whatever, a vision board, right? Yeah. And then I and I vowed to myself that I would work at like 5 of them in the next 3 years or some ridiculous goal like that, right? Yeah. And I wrote them all letters, and I tried to like reach out to the, gatekeepers or whoever, and nothing. Like I heard nothing back.
Right.
Like no one cared. They're like you and everybody else. So
it's
right?
my favorite that nobody cares.
Yeah. So and then I spent several years just finding the community of peers who I just liked and enjoyed spending time with, and who, when they needed a hand, I just helped out or whatever. And then, you know, a certain actor ended up starting a theater company and hired me for something, or somebody was doing a 10-minute play festival and recommended me for something, and suddenly like all these opportunities were like happening.
And you had jobs
from my peer group more than
that.
the gatekeepers or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I had tons of survival jobs.
Yeah, I mean, you want to tell them any of those? Like, because I do think that people don't understand, for the theater director, for the film director, for any of them, like for the writer, they're just like the actor. They're like scooping their way through.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you were working long hours, I remember, in survival.
Yeah, I worked in a box office. I built sets off Broadway. I helped build Christmas windows for Macy's and Lord & Taylor one year.
That was my favorite.
That was my favorite too. Except that the shop wasn't air conditioned in the middle of the summer.
I do remember.
So you're building Christmas stuff in the summer, which is already strange, and it's not air conditioned. And then what else did I do? I passed out cheese at a gourmet grocery store one day, and I was like, "That's it. I'm done with that."
That was one day.
That was one day, and it paid okay. Actually, you'd think that cheese is not a lucrative industry, but you know.
Hey, I think cheese is a very lucrative industry.
People freaking love cheese.
Fucking love cheese, especially in Manhattan. They fucking die for cheese.
It's not an LA thing. People in LA don't.
You know,
eat
they
cheese?
do, but only in certain like sections, I would say.
Oh, I see.
It's like if you're in the what
you
I
have
would
one
say,
piece of cheese and then a juice cleanse
Yeah,
immediately.
That's right. No, I would say there's like certain areas that are sort of known to be more New York-y in Los Angeles, and I would say those, and always Malibu. Like if it's fabulous and it's nice, it's there. Then it's definitely always in Malibu.
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole situation. But yes, cheese is a lucrative industry, you guys.
Yeah. So get out of this business. Get into
the
cheese.
world.
No, but to go back to what you were saying before, just about like I don't know, just sort of like finding who you are, and also finding like your niche, and just also finding, I guess, your emotional truth as you sort of like go through this. I think there's like several periods where I probably did a very unhealthy thing of, I guess, like dulling the extremes of this business, the sort of highs and lows of this business
Tell
by
me about
like
that.
Yeah, just like you can dull the edges by either having blind faith or living in denial. Do you know what I mean? Like both of those.
Two of those are two of my favorite places to live.
Right.
And actors live in those places.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think like what my therapist would say is like much more, it's actually much more helpful to just acknowledge that like, this is an amazing moment and I created something I'm proud of, or this is a really difficult thing. I'm feeling like the phone's never going to ring. And not to just sort of not get like too involved with that feeling, but just acknowledge that it's happening.
Yes.
It's the same thing in like the work too, right? Like
absolutely.
I think sometimes people like to play a character kind of safe and play it kind of like middle of the road or whatever.
Or they want to go like, to me, they either want to do
like
that or they
crazy
want to
tragic. And it's like, no one cares about all this
crazy
tragedy.
Funny, like, or just 80 jokes.
Yeah. And I think it's always that balance. And balance, I think balance isn't about like a kind of static equilibrium, but balance is about acknowledging the extreme.
To me, balance is about trust. That's what it is for me.
Say more about that.
Well, for me, I can say about work, the pursuit of the work, and also this thing we're talking about in the denial versus the like blind faith.
Right. And
for me, the trust in that, like, you're doing the work, that things are going to work out. And I know for me as an actor in the work, trust that like we're gonna work it out. Like I've put in the time.
Yeah.
I've put in all the hours as a trained actress and as a working actress, and being in a place where I can allow that to unfold.
Yeah.
And that's the same for the career.
Yeah.
You're really talking about allowing it to unfold. And I like what you said about acknowledging both on both sides, because what I really encourage actors to do is to keep their statistics.
Right.
Because it keeps them in reality about how they're doing versus either the fantasy or the tragedy.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, you've had 100 auditions this year. That's really great.
Yeah.
And you've booked like 12 of them. Like you're crushing it. Even though you may have had like these 2 months were hard. Like when we look at your year as a business would do.
Well, I mean, if any of your listeners have had 100 auditions and booked 12 of them, then like, that's crazy.
No, but
that's
a lot
so
of them
many
do.
things.
But a lot of them do.
Well, that's fantastic. If those of you out there who have done that, that's fantastic.
But but even those people are apocalyptic. Yes. You see, and the people.
Well, you can always feel like I wish I was working more.
Or you have somebody else that you're comparing yourself to, right?
Yes, and like how come I'm not getting that job?
Thing, and that person I was with in that thing 2 years ago, they're over there, and I may book 12 jobs, but they're getting paid. You know, it's like all this sort of tabs that artists do with each other because we're all freelancing. It's all kind of like secret, hidden, exposed.
But can I just maybe posit that like that, not that being resentful or that, you know, is a pleasant place to live, but the truthfulness about that situation is, I don't know, like, it does also fuel ambition, right?
It
like
can.
You have to have a fuel in some way. Like
I have a couple of actresses for sure that like keep me on my toes in the best way.
Yeah.
Whom I respect like beyond.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, that bitch. Like, but in the best way of like she, you know.
But I think the trick is like whatever is fueling your ambition or whatever, if you have ambition, it's that you don't turn it into
like jadedness
or just spending all of that ambitious energy into resentment of the other person, but taking that ambition into like funneling it into somehow continuing to work on your craft somehow or whatever.
Or for many actors, not just work on your craft, because most actors don't have any problem working on their craft, but working on putting their craft into actually making money.
Sure.
Like actually, can I make money doing this thing? Instead of like, I'm just going to be doing free plays for like the rest of my life, you know? And that's part of what I really encourage them to do, is to really push themselves out there and get work. If in fact what they want is to be working actors.
Here's where I would challenge you on that. Not that I disagree necessarily, because obviously, like, yes, go out and get work and whatever, but like, being on the other side of the audition table, right? Like, I see people come in and they are like, I'm going to book this freaking job.
But that's a different thing.
I know, but
That still comes from like to me, like a desperate place.
Yes.
And so that's not what I'm talking about. And I definitely say to actors, like, but see, then we're going into the same thing you're talking about of like denial or blind faith. Yeah. And if either one comes from like a desperation or a feeling of scarcity or lack, then I really think you're fucked. You're fucked the moment you get in the room.
Right.
And I see actors in both sides where actors are like, I'm just like never gonna get this, and like I just want to kill myself. Yeah. And ones who come in with that attitude of like, I mean, this is mine. I'm gonna take this. It's mine to do. And you're just nah, bro. Like, but what actually people are really drawn to is this like feeling of, like I was saying, trust of like, let's see, is this going to happen? Are we going to have like an experience? Are we going to?
Yeah. And I mean, yes, exactly.
Right.
And I guess what I'm getting at is I see actors come in the audition room and I'm, you know, look, I'm always rooting for people because I'd love to cast the job. I'd love to be done with the audition process. Yeah. And I would love to cast someone who I'm like, oh my God, this person's going to make my show so much better. Yeah. I'm thrilled. So I'm rooting for every single person that comes in. But I find that like a lot of people come in and it's either general or it's certain, you know, like, or actually certainty makes choices general. Do you know what I mean? Because there's nothing you're experimenting with in the scene. There's no game you're playing in the scene. There's nothing to explore or discover in the scene. And just to finish is like, what I meant about like, and what you're saying about coming in with desperation or a place of scarcity or trying to be what you think they want, as opposed to just living in the scene for that moment and doing whatever the scene is you cut yourself off. You are hoping they will find joy in you, but you are cutting yourself off from
discovery,
from having joy yourself in the doing of it, right?
It's so true. Yeah.
And so like because I sort of feel like...
But most actors hate auditioning. They fucking hate it. And in my experience, it's because they simply haven't put in the hours they need to learn how to love the craft of auditioning the same way you one day learn to love the craft of rehearsals. Because like when you start acting, you just like love when the show goes up, and then you like love rehearsals, and then you need to like learn to love the audition process. Yeah. But in order to do that, you really have to put in your hours. Yeah. And what's hard about the auditions is you don't get a lot. Right. And so how do you create the environment wherein you learn auditioning without auditions? And even audition classes don't really, for most actors, set up the same experience of like stakes. Right. Coming in with 20 girls that look exactly like you. Yeah. A casting director who could make or break you. there's nothing on the line in the class in the way that there really is in the pressure cooker situation of an audition. And I really recommend people just practice in any way that works best for them as often as possible, so that when they get in the room, they have a readiness to do the work, to have the experience, to figure it out, to fail, to whatever that is for them, so that it's as creative and an expressive an experience as the rehearsal would be, or as the shooting would be. Sometimes more, even for me.
Yeah, and I would add to that, I just feel like I feel for actors in auditions because, and maybe this is going to sound like it's coming from an incredibly privileged place because I'm sitting on the other side of the desk, but in a way, I don't know that the stakes are as high as they seem to be.
They're not. I mean, part of what I really encourage these actors, and I talk about it very openly, is like one of the real changing points for me in working a lot theatrically, because I was always working commercially, but part of why I was working a lot commercially was it didn't fucking mean anything to me. Right. Like I was like, I'm not proving anything by being like, look, the tree, Bank of America.
Right,
I never felt. And a lot of actors can't book commercials because they have a thing on the money.
Right.
And so they freak the fuck out at commercial auditions because they're like paying all their bills, for the year, and like one callback, and they're like,
spending the money or whatever.
Yeah, and they're panicked as fuck when they get in the callback. Yeah. But I felt that way for theatrical auditions.
Right.
Because so much of my identity and worth for such a long time was wrapped up in my talent and my work. And it was actually through my brother's struggle with alcoholism and my mom struggling with that and my feelings like I had to save everyone, that my therapist was like, what if all you had to do was be responsible for you?
Yeah.
And what if you just could be an actor because you loved acting and you didn't have to do it to save your whole family, and every audition wasn't having to save your whole family. And I was like, well, that would be amazing. She was like,
that would feel great.
Well, it could be yours if you want it.
Well, because the truth is no one audition is going to make or break you.
But when you're starting out in particular, right, most actors coming in with such deep parent approval issues anyway, right? Mm-hmm. An audition is just a giant parent approval pressure cooker situation anyway. And then it's like Christmas in the worst way, that you work on it, and then it's always 2 minutes, and you always leave I don't know what just happened, right? And in LA, I can say, I don't know about the New York market, so maybe you can tell me. In LA, part of what's hard is in the beginning also, the person who's reading you for these roles is reading the script with you, watching the monitor on their computer, and also filming you with a camera. So for theater
here it's different, right? Because yes, that sounds really difficult. You're like, are you even seeing that I'm in the room?
I'm not even here, and how to act with somebody.
Yeah.
And then the pressure cooker situation of that.
Yeah. So you're usually not reading with the director or the casting director. Sometimes you're reading with the casting director.
You're reading.
But usually they have another actor who's acting as a reader. And sometimes that actor is good, and sometimes that actor is not so good.
Yeah.
And but at least you have a scene partner to act off of,
which is super helpful. And they actually outlawed that in Los Angeles. They can't have interns anymore in California because some interns sued Fox. This is 10 years ago.
Right.
And so since then, nobody can have people come and be actor readers.
Yeah.
And if they do, it kind of has to be sort of undercover.
I think here they're paid. They're not, they're not unpaid interns.
No, but that's the whole thing about Los Angeles, right? Is
what was the lawsuit?
The lawsuit was Fox Searchlight for some movie. Two guys who were interns on some pretty big movie sued Fox for not paying them and for overworking them, basically.
Yeah, but if they get paid,
they did not get paid.
Okay, but if they were now to get paid.
If they were now to get paid, yes, but that's part of the whole thing about the interesting thing of the industry is everyone's less, right? Uh-huh. So it's they used to have in-house casting directors, and so they would be there all year.
Right.
And now they're hopping from show to show, and you never know when your show's going to get picked up. Then once you get bigger in the business in LA, then you get sort of the luxury of the actual casting directors who are really reading with you and present, and somebody else who's separately on the monitor and somebody else who's separately on the camera.
Right.
And so you can actually be more present, so it gets a little bit easier. But going back to this sort of pressure cooker situation that we were talking about, all of that in combination with like these one or two lines, and you just, even though no one job is going to do it, every job seems like the most important opportunity ever, particularly if you're only getting...
Well, it's the most important thing that day, right?
Well,
like,
but for also
maybe
for
you spend
actors...
several days working on it or whatever.
And for many of like your 1st to 5-year actors, you're getting a few auditions a year.
Right.
So this one opportunity feels like the one that's gonna save you.
Yeah.
And then like one day you book
and
one.
justify your existence.
And justify your choices.
Yeah, right.
And your college debt.
Yeah.
And your mom wondering when you're gonna come back home. It's like so loaded.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
So you direct theater, and I want to talk a little bit about, for the actors, what the scene is like out here, and what, for an actor who's coming here to pursue the film and television and theater side, because it really is offering, this is a good market for New York right now. They're doing all 3 markets pretty well.
Yeah, there's
right
quite a few TV shows that are shooting here.
That's right.
And
some
there's
movies.
just a couple new studios opening up too. So it is the pendulum swings in all kinds of directions, but the industry is sort of growing at large, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, for everyone I know who's been here for like the hall since as long as you've been here, they really feel like these last 5 years have been like really great for the scene in New York City.
Yeah.
And people can make money again.
I mean, scripted television is just exploding everywhere.
Well, that's what I told them. I was like, it's not New York, you guys. It's the industry. And they're like, well, but it's New York. And I'm like, all right, calm down. Like, it's all
we get very territorial.
You guys are so territorial.
It's like, we have to convince ourselves that the snow and rent is worth it.
I know.
And so we just have to hang on. Don't take that away from me.
I really try not to, because I am so aware that you guys are in this like weird abusive relationship with this city, and you're just like, but I love her. And I'm like, no, man, she's beating you. And you're like, no, but she's so sexy. And I'm like, don't do it. But what are you going to do? Keep sleeping with her.
The heart wants what it wants. I don't know what to tell you.
I like it. So to actors who are, first of all, considering whether they're going to live in New York or Los Angeles or whatever market, what do you feel is the actor who should come here?
Well, I can't really give you a pros and cons list, I guess, between LA and New York, because I haven't spent as much time in LA. But I will say that where we are in New York is like we're at a golden age of playwriting, where some of the best writers are sort of coming up through the ranks. It's also incredibly difficult because the rents here have skyrocketed in the last 15, 20, 25 years. It's a financial challenge to live here, and everybody talks about being a starving artist as being a really difficult thing anyway. Yeah. But I feel for young people first moving to New York for that very reason. Yeah. That your survival job becomes critical, and that just...
And then it's hard to manage that energy and time with the pursuit of acting, and
all
in
of the
theater
above.
In particular is such a high energy and high time pursuit.
Right. And it's never been, terribly financially rewarding. No. I mean, I think people are, what's amazing is I have some friends who are on a committee at Actors Equity Association called Fair Wage on Stage, and they are really doing a big push to try to get a more reasonable salary for actors, so that so you don't have to lose money or make less being in an off-Broadway show than
really
you would being on
talent.
unemployment.
I mean, for me, you guys are going to lose your talent. Because people can't.
Because you're not practicing your craft, you mean? Is that what you mean?
No, I mean because people will flee. Like that's really the interest for me for New York City is like you guys need to hold on to your talent, and the talent has been here for such a long time because it's even though it's been expensive, it's been at least doable. Right. And it's becoming less and less doable by like the month, really. Right. And
well, that's true. I mean, everybody. That's a big reason that people leave New York for LA, because they're sort of hopeful for less rent and more, financially remunerative employment and all that kind of thing. Or just people get sick of it. Everyone's told that it's a hard life and you're going to be a starving artist and all that kind of stuff. But then when the reality sinks in, or it's still happening, that's still your financial reality. Yeah, when
5
you're 30,
years, 10
40,
years,
whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you're just like, I don't want to stress about going out to a restaurant. I don't want to. I'd like to take a vacation at some point. I'd like to have a family at some point. Yeah. Those things can become, really challenging questions that can wear on the creative joy that you get from doing it, I guess. It's really awful why I'm here. I have no idea.
I'm saying. It's like, I know why you're here. I mean,
but wait, Moritz, wait. I have to interrupt you.
Help me. I need some help.
And now it's time for listener questions.
I'm so scared.
This one comes from Rob. What's up, Rob? Rob says, I flipping love your podcast. I'm gearing up for agent season, hoping to get a manager this spring. My headshots are okay, but I think I need new ones. Wondering if you think it's better to wait until I have a manager who can help guide those headshots or get them to impress a potential new manager. Would love your opinion. So basically, Rob wants to know, do you get headshots to impress the rep, or do you get meetings with the rep and then get headshots once you're talking with the rep about what that should be? And I would say 99% of the time it ends up being both. So, yay. The only experience I have wherein you meet with the rep and they don't say you need to get new headshots is if you've really hired someone and put in some planning to get really good headshots that are really good at your casting. Most of you who are on phase 1, you guys have no idea what you're doing when it comes to headshots in your casting. Those of you on phase 2, phase 3, you're doing better. Obviously, the more credits you start to rack up, and the more footage you have, the more you start to see the writing on the wall as far as like what your casting actually is versus what you think it is. And then it's easier to guide your headshots along with what's already working. But if you're a newer actor, if you're more phase 1, phase 2, then usually your headshot session consists of, I really like this shirt. It's my favorite shirt. I'm going to wear it in a headshot session. And believe it or not, that just isn't particularly effective. And I know it feels effective in your soul because you feel so comfortable in your favorite shirt and like you love it. But at the end of the day, what you're really doing is you're using the photographer and your look and your hair and or your makeup if you're a person wearing makeup and the details of the outfit, which is really from like collarbone up, to say something about your product. And that's a really refined art form. So usually what people do when they're phase of getting new representation, getting some beginning representation, is they just have some general headshots, usually that are like poor to average, but you don't know that. And then maybe they're good enough to get you some meeting. And then generally the manager or agent, in a attempt to seem proactive and like they know what they're doing or talking about, not to say they don't, but definitely they may not, they will then tell you what they think your casting is, and then they will give you lots of ideas and looks that they think you should get headshots for. Whether or not their ideas are of any value is not something you're probably going to be very well versed in, because maybe you've got a really good rep who knows what they're talking about, and maybe you don't. Who knows? So to answer your question, yes, get good headshots. Get as good a headshots as you feel like you can. I really recommend working a few extra shifts, doing some job, and saving some money, hiring somebody to help you with your branding, with your consulting, with your headshots, with your outfits. Try and really nail your casting in the beginning. It's going to make it an easier sell when you go into your agency meetings, and then hopefully you won't have to do it a second time. All right. I know that was a lot. Good luck.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
So what in the theater realm, I want to sort of talk a little bit about your directing process. I'm interested in a sort of artistic way about your point of view. What have you felt like you've grown in your voice? Do you feel like you've grown your voice? Because I think, and here's why I asked you that. Because the writers that I know, they have grown their authentic voice over the last several,
Sure.
And that's part of their process, is like going from this idea of what's cool, right, that they think is like a cool thing to do, to then what is their voice. And actors, the same thing, like, what I want to do, what we were saying of like, it's so funny, or it's like so dramatic, versus like really an honest voice that you're bringing to the table. And then do you feel like you're honing in on that more and more in your work as a director?
I hope so.
Yeah. What does that sound like to you? Like,
I guess,
what's the thing that for you?
I do mostly comedy, mostly dark comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason that those kinds of projects keep coming across my desk is just because I I think that every comedy should have an element of tragedy underneath it, and every dramatic piece should have some comedy. There should be some kind of balance there or whatever. Yeah. I guess the story of the kind of work that I was drawn to, I think probably in the early part of my career, I was much campier. I was much more interested in physical bits and camp and silliness on stage, and that I think is now sort of given away to being much more interested in why people are so weird. That we also I guess we spend so much time curating our persona or who we want to be or how we want to be perceived, and I'm sort of fascinated by those like cracks where you actually see what's going on for the person. You see their selfishness or their self-absorption or their resentment, or that you sort of see that shining through as best as we try to hide that. And so, like, usually when I go see a comedy, I'm not laughing at like the jokes. I'm laughing at like
the
that was
weirdness of that quirk.
This like terrible human moment where like our fragility and our fragile egos, greed or whatever, or hungers are like sort of peeking through.
Yes.
And, so that's definitely been a thing that has shifted for me. And I guess just working with more actors and working with actors of different caliber is always informative of how can I just be helpful, I guess. Because I find
do you go like actor at a time, or do you go story and sort of meld from like the big picture to moments? Like, do you have a style, or are you just sort of every project's unique in its own?
Every project's unique in itself, but I guess most directors are not helpful to actors. Most directors are thinking about 8 million things and have spent way less time than actors thinking about the actor's process. So most directors are exceptionally unhelpful and sometimes can sabotage someone, be detrimental and make you completely self-conscious and neurotic in a way that lets you not be free and not actually like be truthful to your moment or whatever. And so I think everything that I've tried to do, and partly this is because I used to be married to an actor, is try to like not be unhelpful to try to
well,
you
also studied acting. I mean, you weren't an actor, but part of your program
doesn't mean I'm any good at it.
But you have a perception, because I can say most directors, and particularly film and television directors, very few of them have ever stepped into an actor's shoes. And they are like petrified of the actor. Like they're just like both in awe and petrified by them. And
I don't think I don't feel that way.
Well,
I mean, look, it's like when an actor does, right? Like we have thousands of generations of evolution built into us that says like, whatever you do not stand up in front of people and make a fool of yourself. And that's like part of the job.
It's the job.
It's an amazing situation. So, but I actually have deep respect rather than thinking actors are insane for what they do. But because I guess, especially doing comedy, when you're in a room of people and you feel a joke like not work, it's terrible. But when you're on stage and delivering a joke and it doesn't work, it's way worse. And I appreciate that. So I think I just don't want people to feel like they're humiliated or they're a fraud. I want them to feel empowered and sort of excited to go out and see if they can discover something new on stage. And
do you like looking for each actor's sort of individual quality and what they bring to the role, sort of that makes it unique to them? Is that exciting to you?
Yeah, I think that what's interesting about the process of auditioning is that you do learn a lot about the play or the script in the process of auditioning, because you get to say, okay, what is this story with somebody this or this person, or what happens to the dynamic or the chemistry of the story if this happens?
I so love that you said that, because what I try to really ingrain to actors' heads is that it's like, it's not because you're good or bad. Like once you get to a certain level, everyone's very good. Well,
and this is also why I get so frustrated when actors come in and they're doing a perfectly fine job, but they're kind of general. And it's like, I've seen 10 other people that are doing perfectly fine and general. And it's way more interesting if there's something like about you that's just different,
but actors
and it could be totally wrong, but like then you're like, okay, great.
Yes, but see, they're trying to get the part. That's like one of the things I've really learned about auditioning, because it's what I love about the work in general, is if you're going to put Audrey in it, what do I have to bring to this? Like, why Audrey? And sometimes I wouldn't cast Audrey. So I wouldn't. I read something and I'm like, no, I wouldn't cast me. but there's a quality to it that I can maybe see, like, I really connect to this part of this story, and that's really personal to me.
Yeah.
And if you're going to cast me, generally speaking, there's a warmth to it. Like my face and my essence doesn't do like cold.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're casting a cold person, I know that, well, if you want cold, you're not going to cast me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to bring you cold.
Right.
But what I can deliver is this sort of writing that's cold in a way that maybe on my face is interesting because there's a warmth to it and there's a charm to it.
Sure.
And maybe that'll be something you haven't thought of.
Yeah.
And just like you're saying, then you sort of go like, oh, that's an interesting way to hear the story.
Yeah.
And
it's unnerving when you find nothing to connect with, right?
Yeah, right.
It's unnerving
but
when you're
most of them aren't actually trying to find something to connect with. Most of them are trying to get the job.
Right.
That's right.
And this is my idea of what I think you want,
mm-hmm.
as opposed to this is who I think this person is, or
in this story.
Yeah, or this is who this person is living through me.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
I totally get it. Can you tell me how many casting offices for theater in general are out here for actors to? Are we talking like 30? Are we talking like 80?
I don't know.
Oh, interesting.
There's a few that I work with.
Great. And do you have, that's what I was going to ask, do you pick the
I don't think
casting
there's
directors?
80. I don't think there's 80.
I think there's like 30 to 50, right?
I think so.
Yeah. And do you get actors from LA? Do you get them from Vancouver? Do you ever get them from outside? Unless they're stars, if they're stars, right? Like
because it has to be worth the expense
of bringing them,
of flying and housing
mm-hmm.
them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if it's something for Broadway or off Broadway,
mm-hmm.
then it's potentially on the table. If it's
mm-hmm.
off Broadway, it's probably one person that they can
right.
maybe afford, and it better be somebody who's like
super going to sell some tickets.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
And because it's an added expense for the producer, and so it's usually on the table to a degree or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it really helps if you can say that you can find local housing for yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
Like that makes life easier.
Mm-hmm.
I have several friends who are bi-coastal in that way, who
mm-hmm.
let people know that like I'm both,
mm-hmm.
so that they don't
they don't miss opportunities because of cost. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I have questions that I wrap with, but first I want to just ask, do you have anything that so this is a large group of listeners. We have everyone from actors who are working professionally, actors who make lots of money as actors, to actors who are just graduating from college, and people in different parts of the world. Do you have something that you feel like you would like to communicate to them in your little niche of this theater director in New York City, and what
to all actors everywhere?
To any particular group.
This is
I know.
This is the opportunity to finally get off my chest.
Get your chest. How annoying they are. Get over yourselves.
No, I mean, I just feel for actors because
mm-hmm.
I know that I have a lot more control of a collaboration because I'm sitting in the position of power. So it's I take that with a lot of humility and responsibility, but I know other people don't. Mm-hmm. And that's hard. That's a hard situation to find yourself in and to navigate and to continue to figure out what to do with. And so I know that the temptation is there to just either be territorial and defensive, or to be submissive and pleasing.
That's what I was going to say, to sort of tap out.
Right, and neither of those leave yourself open to a process of discovery. Mm-hmm. And so it's really hard when you come up against personalities that I think challenge your ability to be open in that way. Yeah. And how do you stay open? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you do in those kind of situations because I'm actually trying really, really hard to foster the opposite of just trying to have an open communication where it's okay if we get some things wrong, but we can also talk about it, mm-hmm. and we can also sort of explore what if it's not? What if the givens are not what we think? What if it's this other thing? Mm-hmm. Or
the alternatives, things like that. Yeah. Uh-huh.
What do I want to say to all actors everywhere? I would say the more of yourselves you put on stage or on screen mm-hmm. is only generous to us, and only creates something more specific, more memorable, more interesting and unique. But I know that there's a lot of things that make it difficult to be able to do that. Not only your shitty collaborators potentially, but also like your own fear of your comfort zone. You know what I mean? Or what you think your comfort zone is, and or your certainty, where you know your bias, where you don't even realize you feel certain about something. Because I just sort of feel like certainty is the enemy of all everything creative.
Yeah, well, it cuts exploration,
it's done.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not exploring that anymore, right? Like we're done. And so
Right.
to sort of really go back and say, you know, let's be open to all the things, but let's also not get like overly tempted by the weird choice where you're like, you know what I mean? Because sometimes people come in.
I love a weird choice.
And it's
I'm
like
with you.
wackadoo, and
Yeah.
you're like, that's a choice. You know what I mean? And then, and then you're like, great. So, you know, you got tempted by it. You sort of like fell down the rabbit hole of that thing.
Of
and
creative
like,
choices.
That's, right.
Yeah.
That's fine. But like, what also, like,
How
what
about
if
the
it's,
story?
yeah,
Right.
what if also if it's a human being?
A
You know what I
true-
mean? Like, what if it's like a real human being
I love it.
finding themselves in this situation
Yeah.
and they're trying to navigate it, you know?
Yeah, I do.
All the things that make this business hard emotionally does work against your creative spirit. And it's really important to find
To nurture
joy
that.
in the work, I think. Like
I'm telling people all the time, like,
that's partly why I love working on comedy, is because I sort of feel
brings
like
some love.
it helps foster that in the room. I mean, there's no, you know, the saying goes like, there's no darker place than the dressing room of a comedy. You know what I mean? Like, because everyone's backstage being like, how do I get this joke better? I know I can get a bigger laugh
and
here.
comedy actors have a darkness to them. They really do. Smart people usually with strong points
and
of view.
know, and you also know when the audience is with you, or whether they're giving you a pity laugh, or whether it's a laugh. You know, like I was talking to somebody and, you know, saying that some show was funny, and they were like, "Is it funny, or is it theater funny?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's right on." No, but it's also
it's so right on,
because it's like what we try to get away with, and people are like, well, I paid all this money to see this show, so I'm going to kind of laugh.
Ha ha ha.
Yeah, and it's like it's not funny,
Right.
you know. And
Yeah,
I want a gut grabbing, just like make you
laugh.
like hurt with like aching with laughter. So like that's, I mean, it's a tall order, but that's the real thing we're chasing or whatever. But I think partly that comes from joy, so that like even if you're doing a dramatic thing, you're telling off your mother or whatever it is, that there can be a joy to finally getting to tell her this thing, or there can be a joy in letting your grief out, you know, or living in your grief. There can be a joy of like not being numb to it, but like living in it. Or there can be a joy to navigating the most awkward first date ever, you know, or whatever the scene is. You know, but I think
and as
if you
actors,
get fixated on the right, like what's the right choice, then you're not thinking about what makes you feel tickled.
Just what you're saying about the generosity of revealing yourself.
Right.
That's what that is. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, we have 5 questions that we end with.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for me?
Is that the first question?
That's the first question. But everyone always freaks out, so we can pause on it and keep going, and then we can go back to it.
Okay, great.
Okay, good. Okay, let's do that.
Okay, let's do that.
But wait, Moritz. Wait. I have to interrupt you.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you shit you didn't know about your union.
All right, you guys, so this is the SAG-AFTRA WNW's Network Television Code 2018. So this is called the Wages and Working Conditions. That's basically a process that SAG-AFTRA goes through where you talk about what you want in your new contract. So any of you are like, stupid SAG-AFTRA, they don't do anything and they don't protect us. And then I'm like, have you ever gone to a W&W? And you're like, I don't know what that is. That's right. And that's why you feel like you don't get what you want out of your contract. All right, so this says, in order to be as informed as possible when participating in this important process, SAG-AFTRA is hosting a presentation, an overview of Broadcast Network Television 2018. Please join us to learn how the industry is changing and the impact those changes are having on our membership. This presentation will help you understand the current state of the industry under which the SAG-AFTRA will be negotiating the network code, which expires June 30th, 2018. Don't you want to be a part of the conversation? Don't you want to be a part of the changes? All right, so this is Tuesday, March 6th. In Atlanta, 1:30 to 3:30. Chicago, 12:30 to 2:30. Los Angeles, 10:30 to 12:30. New York, 1:30 to 3:30. You do have to find out where your location is, so just go download your SAG-AFTRA app. It's on there. This is all Tuesday, March 6th. Tuesday, March 6th. Those of you in Los Angeles, there is going to be a SAG theatrical contract meeting, 2:30 to 4:30. You just go to the SAG building. You have to reserve your spot. You show your card. They let you in. They have water for you. They have coffee for you. And it's an entire room of staff members who blow through the contract for the first hour. And then the second hour is all questions. It's like so helpful. It's actually pretty entertaining because they know they're talking to actors and we have very short attention spans. So they do it really quick. I couldn't recommend it more highly. I will probably be there. Wednesday, the 28th of February, 2:30 to 4:30. Go. James Cagney Boardroom. Know your contract. Be empowered. Know your contract.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Why directing?
I was a graphic designer first, and then I found how I really missed theater, and I also found that graphic design felt like kind of lonely, sort of, and that actors were much more malleable than Photoshop in a way. So partly because they talk back, like Photoshop doesn't talk back; it just sort of gives you an error message.
And you just like,
and you're like, I can't. I don't know.
I know.
You have to download another filter. What do I have to do? But
it just froze. It froze.
Yeah, but to be in collaboration with other people who are like, I disagree with you. I'm like, this is great. This is fantastic. That feels like a level of engagement that not a lot of other people get in other businesses.
I totally agree.
And I think it's really exciting to sort of have a room full of people who are passionate about telling a story. And then theater specifically for me is to be in the room with all those people, with an audience and hear them like responding or just the energy. I like theater because I felt disappointed with church when I was growing up. I felt like I understood what people around me were getting from it and I wasn't getting it. And there was some spiritual energy that people were feeling that I wasn't feeling in church. And theater, I think, works as a wonderful companion to religion in the sense of like, there is a communal energy happening and that can be, I guess, purged or unlocked, or that people don't even know is like repressed or hidden or like sitting in a ball of tension somewhere inside them, and that through a story, through someone else's story that can unlock something in you that releases that energy, and you feel it in the room with all those people.
Because it's energy, right? It's a circuit. I mean, it's real.
Yeah,
it's very palpable.
And it's amazing to discover that as often as we feel isolated or what we're going through is so personal to us, how many other people are actually feeling or thinking or going through the same thing. Not everybody, obviously. There's
I don't know, but even in really the best stories, part of why it's successful is because you tap into something that everyone relates to, some part of the experience.
And then I go through like the rabbit hole on the dark end of that spectrum is the responsibility we have as storytellers to be aware of the myths that we're creating, that people sort of ingrain into themselves of like, but I saw in all these stories, I saw in all these movies, I saw in all these plays, this myth that I want for my life that may or may not be a real thing.
Yeah, and a good example of that is there's this like thing online about this project of a mother and daughter, and they went into children's books and they took out all the ones that didn't have boys as protagonists, and they took out all the ones that didn't have girls as princesses, and then they took out all the ones where the girl was the protagonist but then was saved by the boy at the end, and it was like 3 books.
Right.
And that's the responsibility of a storyteller.
Right.
Because then, that's what a whole generation of women have always been reading, which I thought is just like one really interesting example of exactly that.
Yeah.
The mythology that we're creating for ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the worst part about the business for you?
I think the hardest thing is being okay with giving up some creature comforts and struggling financially is a sacrifice. It is difficult. And even I think when you get to a certain level, I don't think that,
I haven't noticed that people relax.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me it's like at a high level they relax.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
When you get to a certain age, there's more things that you need
right.
for your life, or
Yeah.
you know, or you just
or expenses rise as you get older anyway. You
that's
know,
right.
just living in New York, what it costs to live here when you moved here versus what it costs now.
Yeah.
And so even though you may be more successful in making more money,
Yeah.
it's costing you more money to be in the same business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel really grateful that the joy I'm getting out of the work is rewarding.
Is rich.
Yeah, as rich as much as the fight. I'm now, you know, to any producers out there.
Yeah.
My quote
ready.
Isn't going down.
It's only going up.
I'm only moving it up. But
it's an important lesson,
yes,
though.
but it
so
is the
good.
thing, right?
It's so good. No, you have to do that. I mean, I tell that to actors all the time, and actors are the worst about it. I'm like,
what, raising your quote?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, get more money. And they're like, what? And I'm like, bitch, get more money. Like, don't do shit for free. And But they're so apologetic. And I'm like, it actually has the adverse effect. They think it's going to lose them jobs. And it actually gains you jobs because people are like, oh, wait.
Right.
You're expensive?
Right.
That must mean you think you're valuable.
And also, it's like anyone will tell you in business, like, don't leave money on the table, right?
Oh,
so it's like if you aren't pushing the deal to the point where they might almost turn you away, then you're leaving money on the table.
It's so true.
And that's something you could have spent on
a vacation,
a couple days in Mexico or something. You know, like it's
that's right.
It's a challenge. But you're afraid of them being like, you know, go to hell and walking away or whatever.
Mm-hmm. What do you wish somebody had told you or managed to get you to understand when you were just a wee babe entering this business?
But like I said, I felt like I spent way too much time focusing on like the gatekeepers and way less time
on the relationship.
Realizing that my peer group who all came of age and now are movers and shakers and just, you know, all of the time that I spent just doing favors for people, not realizing that actually was going to like come back around in opportunities that I had no idea. You know, I couldn't have known. I couldn't have been in a self-serving way known that if like I spent a day helping somebody build a set for something off Broadway, that it would eventually lead to another opportunity. Like I couldn't have connected those dots that I now see looking backwards. But
it was all about those relationships.
Or just, you know, just going up to somebody after a show and being like, that was freaking great, and just introducing myself and then seeing them at a party later and then having a friendship down the road later. And, you know, it all sort of comes around. Yeah,
and it's such a great community in New York in that way. You know,
I like our community. I think there is a community here, and
there's
I like
a real community here.
Quite a bit.
Yeah. I mean, every time I know anybody who does the theater circuit here, I'm like, you know, so and so. And it was like, I know, like it's like everybody knows everybody.
It's like on your show. I'm like, I know everybody.
You do know everybody. I know exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. What is your biggest struggle right now, personally or professionally?
Personally,
or
you want me to tell everybody?
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be personally or professionally. You can choose.
I feel like in a really great place that a lot of projects are coming my way, and I feel like it's tricky to have to be in a position where I'm not just taking every job, but choosing the ones that I really want. But you never know if the ones that I'm drawn to are the ones that are actually going to get anywhere. Or
it's all gambling.
So I mean, it's a challenge to an extent, but I also just, you know, I find it insufferable to work on a project that I'm not passionate about, and I find it just rewarding in and of itself to work on a script that I am passionate about, even if nothing happens with it. So, it's just great to be in this city where there's like so many wonderful writers to work with, and that gets me really excited and that kind of thing. It's hard when a lot of them, you know, who love the theater, but then go away to work on TV, and they're like, "Oh, I'm coming back. I'm coming back to the theater."
They come to my side. They're never coming back to the theater.
No, they're not. They're like, "I'm going to write a play at some point," and then maybe they do, but then they're like, they don't want to do any rewrites because they're like, "I'm so busy," and
and they're
why
making
bother?
God
I don't
knows
even know
how
if it's
much.
going to get a production or something. Right.
Yep.
So it's hard. I get jealous. I get jealous and protective of like, no, don't leave, stay here. I mean, of course, I want the best for them, and I want them to be like have a comfortable life and all that kind of stuff. But I do also want to continue to collaborate with them.
Maybe we'll just move you over to the dark side, also known as the sunny side.
The sunny dark side.
The sunny darkness of Los Angeles.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do that
one day.
Maybe.
I mean, that's my theory about you is that you were like, I've only recently discovered that there's like a real thing of like being an East Coast person. Like a lot of
people,
what do you mean? Like they have like, it's an identity thing that I have recently discovered, and I was like, oh, That's why everyone thought I was so obnoxious in college. Because I like showed up and was like, hey guys, what's going on? Let's do acting. And everyone was like, who are you and why are you so excited?
I don't know that I thought you were an obnoxious person in college. I think it was also your class was
My class thought I was
full
obnoxious.
of a lot of snobs and things,
That's right.
Like, but
Yeah.
I
I would say the upperclassmen didn't think I was obnoxious, and the lowerclassmen didn't think I was obnoxious. My class in specific was
I
like,
had some feelings about
Audrey
your class.
Moore. Yeah, everyone did.
So,
Everyone did.
Um,
Everyone did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but you know what it is for me that I love about New York is like I like to get to the root of like why people are flawed and crazy and human. And there's definitely a culture of directness and no nonsense in New York that I thrive on. A sort of this isolated, heavily curated, and like every meeting is the best meeting thing. Like I don't have patience for it. I'm like,
that's interesting.
Like, are we doing it? Are we not doing it? Like what? Like and if I want to tell you to fuck off, then I can tell you to fuck off, and you can tell me the same thing. Like.
But that's what's so funny is because I say to you, you don't knock it till you try it, because I actually think that that's really valuable in Los Angeles. Because so many people are covert, because I'm very overt. Yeah. And it does well for me. Yeah. And it's because I don't have anything on it. Like I'm not trying to be I'm not a mean person. Yeah. I know that I'm not a mean person.
I just think people are comfortable with you when they know where they stand with you.
I agree. And that's what I like from people. When I'm like, who are you? Where are you?
Yeah,
if you're a total bitch, just tell me. It's like because I can handle
it's
bitch.
like in dating, right?
Right,
It's like,
exactly.
what are we doing? Yeah, what is happening here?
Where are we?
Is this amazing or is this fucking a waste of time, right? Like, that's what everyone's sort of asking or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And it's sort of great to be like, just so you know, like this is what this is.
Yeah, love it.
Or like I have aspirations that this is going to be this, or
Yeah. And then hope you just don't get your heart ripped out.
Well, that.
Oh God, that's another podcast.
It's different. Okay. It's a different podcast.
Let's do social media plug.
I'm not huge on social media. You can follow me on Twitter or Insta, but like. I'm not huge on social media, so.
Okay. Any actors looking to get in contact with you, what would be the best way? If they're like, love your podcast, anything they should come and look at, or past stuff that they should research?
You can go to my website, moritzvs.com, and see more of my work. You can also see my latest Broadway show, Present Laughter, on Broadway HD. You can stream it on BroadwayHD.com. Or you can stream it on PBS. It's on there too. Love it. Great performances. Kevin Kline's in it, and he's amazing. And the rest of the cast is a bunch of powerhouse, wonderful actors. So it's a terrific production that we're all really proud of. But if I do say so myself. So you can see more of my work there too. That's probably the best way to reach out to me.
Yeah, I just like for them to have a way to, discover you.
No, this was delightful.
Okay, good.
This was, my questions have been answered. Okay, good. If your questions weren't answered, listeners, you're going to need to subscribe and listen to some more podcasts. Okay, good. And you should write us on the iTunes store. And what do people say on
write a review on iTunes.
Tell people about this podcast.
Subscribe, write a review.
Yes, please.
I end with mildly interesting. This can be anything you want to recommend, anything you've read, any hair products you might like, a person you're interested in following on Instagram, like whatever it is, a lamp that you think is cool.
Like what's interesting?
Anything mildly interesting.
Anything mildly
that
interesting.
you want people to know about.
This is going to make me seem like a really boring person. I'm thinking about like what's mildly interesting.
Yes.
I have no interests. Apparently, I have no interests whatsoever. Right now, I have an unhealthy obsession with Acai Bowls.
Yes.
I had one this morning before I came here.
Okay, good.
And I think if you've never had one, they're freaking delicious.
Just so you know, there's not a person in LA that hasn't had one.
Okay, well.
But for the New York listeners out there.
It's a half and half in New York.
Okay,
We're still discovering them.
Okay, good. It's a summer tropical thing, So
not for me.
No, that's good that not for you.
For me.
He's like, it's 30 degrees out and I'm all over it.
Yes.
That's hilarious.
That's right.
That's funny. I'm going to mildly interesting, for those of you in New York, an app called Via, which is like an Uber or a Lyft, but all rides are $5.
Oh, fascinating.
Have you done this?
No. Do they go to Brooklyn?
They do go to Brooklyn.
Oh, fascinating.
It's so fantastic. And what it is it's kind of like a mini bus, maybe. Like it's a ride sharing vehicle that comes, and it tells you like where it's going to be at, like the corner of so and so. So it's always near you, in like 10 minutes, and then you go, and there's like it'll be there in 2 minutes.
You get a kickback from this?
No, it's so great. No, I just discovered it while I was here, and then it's like, but you get
You
like.
should be. That was really well explained.
Okay, good.
You should get a kickback.
You get a kickback
from them. From
You're
Blue
not
Apron,
allowed
from
to.
everybody.
Okay, you're not
from
allowed to.
Casper Mattress. Everybody needs to be kicking you back. To you.
We're getting to it. We're
okay,
getting to
great,
it.
good.
We're gonna get the podcast fortune going.
That's
trust
right.
me, yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
No, but
the podcast, conglomerate.
Yes, that's right. All the wealth of money that comes from podcasts.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. No, it's good. I found out though the hard way. No talking. Like on the phone, you can't like have
on Via. You mean?
Yeah, on Via, you can have like a phone conversation. You can't
you found
have
out the
like
hard way. You were shamed on.
Yeah, I was. Well, I was just informed that you're not allowed to by the driver, which I didn't know. You're not allowed to have food. You can have like coffee, but you can like eat a sandwich, and you can't like play something out loud on your phone. So if you're like watching YouTube, you have to have.
You
headphones.
sound like all like a normal person who's living in the world would understand
dicks,
to like.
So no.
Don't put your pistachio shells on the. Don't clip your toenails.
No.
In the.
So
in
you
the
think
Via.
people are reasonable people, and Via knows people are not reasonable people.
Oh, fascinating.
So I was like listening to a YouTube. No, it was like a Instagram story that happened to be loud, and then he's like, "Excuse me, you can't."
Were
have
there
that
other
on.
people on the
like
Via?
a girl, but he was like, and once she was gone, he's like, "No,
and she was making
whatever.
a face, right? Like,
no, not at all. I think she had her headphones in, and she couldn't care less. But it's the rules are the rules, Moritz. The rules are the rules.
I'm a rule breaker.
Okay, great.
I like to push against the rules.
He's gonna come in with a big sandwich next time.
I'm coming on
like
there.
eggs and salmon
right.
sandwich.
Yep,
Oh,
a
shit.
big
Just see what
falafel
happens.
situation. Right, yeah.
It's like, I dare you to kick me off.
I just bring it.
Oh,
yes.
shit. Well, great. Thank you very much for coming over.
It was
This
really
was really
pleasure.
great.
It's good to
and
see
I
you
think
again.
that they're gonna really enjoy it.
Good.
Thanks, guys. As always, don't forget your towel.
What does that mean?
That's my sign off. Don't forget your towel.
Next week on Audrey Helps Actors, I have two options depending on who we can pressure as a group source peer pressure group. The first person is possibly, we're going to talk about the New York market. We've already recorded Peter O'Connor. He is a New York actor who lived in Los Angeles. We sort of discussed the pros and cons of each market. But also with that, I'm trying to pair Samantha Soul. She's here. She was going to come meet with me, but she just needs a little extra peer pressure to make it happen. So if you're a friend of the good Sammy Soul, just give her a little text message and be like, I am so excited for all of the wealth of incredible knowledge that you are going to drop on the Audrey Helps Actors podcast about the New York market, because Peter leaves it so open for you. He says, if you want to talk to the quintessential New York actress, Sammy Soul, she's the way to go. So we have to have her on. Those of you who watch Godless, she played Charlotte, my bestie in the Westie, on Godless. So let's peer pressure her. The other person, depending on that success or failure, is going to be Derek Men. He is a commercials audition session runner. Oh man, you guys, he has all of the info. He has the scoop-de-scoo. And what's great is he's not worried about giving you guys too much in-depth scoop, because that's the best part about the commercial sessions runner, is they can spill all the beans. So he's going to let you know all the things that you're doing that are wrong. They're just wrong, you guys. They're just wrong. And then he's going to let you know all the things that you do that are right. All right. I hope you are on your way to an audition. Also, don't forget that towel. Also, book it. Book it. I booked it, you guys. I'm shooting this week. What? Also, don't forget your towel. This show is produced and edited by Jesse Lumen. Oh, he's so handsome. Special thanks to Thomas Snodgrass for the mic assistance here and there. He's so generous with his mic. It's good to have your sound guy across the street, you guys. And thanks to Aalok Mehta for some help with the theme song. Music this week and every week by Ari De Niro. And most importantly, don't forget your towel.